Great. I think we're live. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome
afternoon.
to State Board of Elections meeting. Chair Summers is running a little bit late and asked me to get things started. Declare a quorum present with 4 members present. Are there any additions to the agenda or changes to the agenda? Great. We're going to move on to item 3, approval of minutes. We have the open and closed meeting minutes from June 25th. Is there any discussion or a motion?
I sent in my changes and they were put in, so I move that we accept the minutes.
All right.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Ms. Butler, seconded by Ms. Jackson Stanley. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. And on the closed meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the closed meeting minutes as approved,
Great.
as presented.
Second.
Great. Motion by Ms. Jackson Stanley, seconded by Ms. Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Going to turn things over for the state administrator's report. Mr. Demarinis.
Yes, thank you. I'm at the NASHED conference right now in Minneapolis, so I'm going to just be doing the state administrator's report and then head back down to the conference here with my other colleagues from across the states here. It's been it was a little interesting traveling here, but now that the conference is in full swing, so it's good to see and hear some of the best practices from across the states, and I'll be able to report back. But right now, I just wanted to present the state administrator's report. It's almost been almost a year since I became state administrator, which will be in September 1st. So we've been working really hard, reviewing a lot of the processes and procedures and trying to just change a little bit of the dynamics of the state board and with the local boards. And also other primary stakeholders. We just wanted to say thank you again to the governor's office and Department of Budget and Management to help us with adding new positions within our agency. And we've worked to move some, and I can tell you, we'll tell you more. But we're always going to need more because I think it's due to the growth of the agency, election administration, and the laws that are being passed that we're just always striving to make our election administration better. And in the course of this, we've just reorganized a little bit of the structure of the State Board of Elections. So I'm just going to basically hit some of the highlights of this here. One, we have a new internal audit division, which will be focused primarily on consisting of reviewing the accuracy of the data in the voter registration database, as well as analyzing processes improvements to strive for more accurate voter rolls. I think that this is, something that has been a hot button topic here about voter rolls and voter registration. And with this, we're going to try to make it even better and move Maryland as an example for other states to talk about. This will also provide in-depth investigation into double voting while working with the state prosecutor's office. And it is being led by Janet Smith, who has worked with SBE for over nearly 2 decades in the voter registration division. So this is kind of a new division that, focusing just on the accuracy of the voter rolls, making sure that our processes are followed and that the locals are following the processes as well. So I think that this is a great improvement to Maryland, and it goes back to our overall philosophy here, which is, verified, open, transparent and empowering, and this will be a part of our mission statement with this new division here. The project management division is being transitioned into and expanded into an election management division, which will be under Russell Hicks. Russell has worked for SBE for more than a decade as a regional manager, has worked closely with the local boards. This will ensure election management division now will ensure regulatory compliance oversight, management of our central warehouse and office operations, as well as the polling place plans, constituent relationships, contracts, and that assist with the local boards of elections. So it's basically expanding the regional manager program into a much a bigger role and more responsibility under that wing there. And I think that that is a great improvement for it. We're still going to have project management, but that's going to be slightly different. Additionally, we have worked out a new voter registration and operations division, which has a new director, which is Crystal McGinn, and she has worked at 2 local boards of elections for more than 5 years before coming to SBE, and she's been at SBE since 2022. And this is basically overseeing the voter registration policies and procedures, as well as operations involving election judges and special projects that we have. And as everyone knows, we have a lot of special projects there. So I think that it's this is kind of more streamlined and will help overall election administration. Additionally to these reorganizations, we have implemented additional audit procedures as a result of the new legislation to performance evaluation of the election directors. We're creating an election director comprehensive audit whereby we're going to review 2 counties per month for compliances with things regarding laws, regulations, human resources, responsiveness to SBE, stakeholders, these, and making sure that they're in complete compliance with the state board's policies and procedures. We will then communicate that with the local board president, and, we will make sure that it's completed at least once a year per the local board. So this is kind of, we're standardizing this and providing a notice to what we're going to make sure what the election directors understand what the performance evaluation was about. And I think that goes to the intent of some of the comments that I heard during the bill itself, making sure that, they understand that this is not some, subjective, hearing about their work of performance here, but something that they can really objectively see and, understand and move forward with. We are seeking information about voting systems, registration management systems, and modernizing our poll books so that, we're, as those contracts are ending, we're continuing on that procedures there. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that as we meet through the procurement section of my report here. And we're also looking at making sure that the ballot marking devices right now will have a goal of creating 2 columns on 1 page so that more candidates can be listed for the 2026 election. We're researching it. It has been done in the past, but this time we're going to make sure that, we're trying to go forward with that process because we've heard enough complaints about that. On a sad note here, Keith Ross, which was SBE's project management officer, he is retiring effective August 1st. Keith's been a part of SBE for many years. He's been a valuable resource. Before that, he was a contractor working with SBE. So we just want to wish him congratulations and the best on his future endeavors. And one of the things right now is that we are currently seeking a new director of budget. We have our positions are open, as well as the chief information security officers to complete our senior management team. On the CISO, this position usually was contractual, but I felt that due to the sensitive nature of the information that was presented and security clearances needed, that it was best to make it a state position, and DBM agreed with it, and we're quite happy that it now will be in-house with state clearances and as a state employee rather than a contractual position. As you're aware, we have
Mr. Damaris?
Yes.
Sorry, before you move on, can I ask a couple questions about this section?
Sure.
Great. And obviously, if any of the other members have questions, and just to your last point, I think that's a great move on the CISO. Having somebody permanently internal makes a whole lot more sense. For the new division that you mentioned at the beginning, the internal audit division, how many staff in total are going to be in that division?
Right now, we have, we added 2 positions to it, so it's going to be a staff of 3. But, you know, that's where I did preface it early on by saying, we want to thank DBM and the governor's office for working with us for creating the new positions, but we're not done yet, right? Like, so, yes. And one of the things about this is that this helps with a lot of the OLA findings that we've had in the past about this. So now, one of the things, when you have an audit, it's good to have it as a separate division so that voter registration can focus on the voter registration, working with the locals, and then you have a completely separate division that will audit the processes outside of that so that there is no problems with it. And that's something that I learned from, you know, with audit and making sure that it was separate and distinct from people that were helping campaigns work with reports, that there were different individuals then were reviewing those reports to see if there was mistakes or anything like that afterwards there. So it's just kind of a good standard practice with auditing as well.
That's fantastic. For the election director comprehensive audits, do you know, I know there was a whole list of things that you're looking at, and then a whole list of things that probably weren't mentioned. Do you know if internal and external communications is a part of that, how they're communicating with their staff and how they're communicating with their public, and are they working with the state board to make sure internal communications are consistent?
So yes, one of the things is we haven't finalized the document yet. We're still drafting it. Yes, we wanted to communications with stakeholders, I think, is important because it's one of the things that I also want to see is that it's in the laws that we are supposed to also contact individuals that they have had contact with or supposed to have contact with on a periodic basis. So yes, customer service in our business is extremely paramount, and also customer service helps in this modern age here, helps battle back dis and misinformation. And the more you have that, the more people feel that it is a trusted source, and then will help push our message of being a trusted source, being like they're responsive, they come to us, they make us understand the issues. There is nothing untoward or hidden about this. So like I said, it also goes to our little kind of our mantra of vote, which is verified, open, transparent, and empowering. So
that's fantastic. And then the final thing on this section for me, the ballot marking device, the idea of having the 2 columns, just thank you. I've been hearing about this issue for as long as we've had the BMDs from a variety of candidates. And so just thank you for addressing that and looking into that.
We're going to try, like I can't make any promises, but we're going to give it a solid, really good effort here to make sure that if that's the goal is to get it to be implemented rather than not.
That's awesome. Any questions from it? Ms. Baldwin?
Yeah, so the OLA in their recommendations to the board, they were talking about when you're doing prosecution, and then the response from the state board was that the local boards weren't complying quick enough for you to do that. So will this new committee be able to work with that to make sure that the LBEs are getting that to you so that we can prosecute people that are double voting on a good, timely basis, is my question.
Yes, so this is to make sure of the accuracies of the rolls and getting those records in a timely manner. And we have a memorandum of understanding with the state prosecutor's office about who gets the records and how to move forward with it. And so, yes, this will be a part of it. Ms. Berry, I didn't know, did you want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know, there were like 3 major recommendations, and that was definitely one of them.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Demarinis, all yours.
So back to the special election here. We're on track to have an at-large county council special election on August 6th. It is a full vote by mail election, so all registered eligible voters, Democrat and Republican voters, are being sent ballots right now for the special primary election. We have There are going to be 39 ballot drop boxes available. This is the same number of ballot drop boxes for a regular election, so they're throughout the county, and all that information is there. One of the things is that we also have updated informational videos for correctional and juvenile detention centers, and we are now engaging in I would say, an outreach campaign informing voters about the election as well. So that is ongoing. Now, I just want to make for the record here that because of the shortened time period for mail-in ballots to be received by the nearly 500,000 registered primary voters, and the possible postal delivery delays, which has been well documented, and recently with the CrowdStrike, I would say the computer issues that have occurred, that this has all kind of affected some of the timeline here. The ballots are being mailed out today to all the 500,000 voters. Yesterday was when web delivery was sent out, but with an August 6th primary date, there really is no time to reissue for any lost, destroyed, or spoiled ballots. And if there's any sort of issues there, in order to make sure that we have the ability to increase the enfranchisement and not disenfranchise any voters, we are going to permit in-person voting during the early voting through Election Day. There will be 9 vote centers beginning July 31st through August 6th, and mail-in ballot canvassing will begin on Election Day rather than early. And we have protocols now in place to prevent any double voting. If double voting occurs, we will catch it and we will send it over to the state prosecutor's office. So that we looked at it. Vote by mail is, the special election is supposed to be a full vote by mail, and that in person would just be provisional voting. But due to, like I mentioned, all these, I would say, factors here that rise to almost like emergency level type of scenario here, because we don't want to disenfranchise anybody, we will permit in-person voting during those periods. Candidates have been aware of this, and so we have put protocols in place again to prevent double voting. The special general election for this seat will be conducted simultaneously with the 2024 presidential general election. So that was on the county proclamation, and will save some money and prevent any voter confusion by having it on that ballot as well. So that's kind of where the special election is. If there's any questions, then I'll kind of keep on going.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are any of the candidates that are running going to cause another special election?
Well, that's something down the road. Possibly there are candidates that are currently on the county council that, if elected, would possibly trigger a special election in 2025. So we are monitoring that, but that is a down the road issue for us. Right now, we have August 6th to deal with, coupled then with the November election. Then we will figure out who wins after November if it triggers another special election.
Okay.
And we worked closely with the county council and the Office of the Attorney General, and I wanted to thank Attorney General Brown as well for his support and, I would say, an assistance in making sure that we had this election, the way it is. So, yes.
Yeah. And Mr. Damaris, I just did want to say we've got a long way to go, but thank you to you and your team, and Mr. Coburn, to you and your team for getting us this far. I know it was a lot of work behind the scenes to kind of match things up and make this technically feasible. And so just thank you for your work there.
Thank you. We have some statistics here for you as well. One of the bigger things is that, as you're aware, for the provisional voting, there was 295 people that the applicant returned or voted a ballot. There is additional information that we asked for on that, and we'll provide that to you with the next updated report on the 295 as we collect the supplemental information on that code that we had. But those were all the codes that we had there. And then the mail-in ballot data there. As you can see, mail-in ballots are very popular, and about a third of all mail-in ballots were delivered via the Dropbox. One county was almost as nearly as 50% of their ballots were returned via the Dropbox. So it's a very popular method there. And one of the things that I want to look at too is when they were returned via the Dropbox versus the mail. I have a sneaking suspicion that ballots that were returned via the Dropbox were heavier towards the as election date approached versus the mail, which would probably be in the earlier part of this. But like I said, that's just my hypothesis. I'll be happy to, I can't wait to really look at the data across the board there. But as you can see, it does range, some in the teens, but you see some like 49, 42, 43% there. So Dropboxes are very popular as a method there.
Jared, can I ask a question, Jared?
Sure.
Jim, and just regarding the Dropboxes, statewide, I know in Montgomery County, they were all under video surveillance. Statewide, are all our Dropboxes under a 24-hour video surveillance?
Yes, they have the security. It's a statewide security measures that they are under surveillance. Yes.
Statewide, all of them?
Statewide, every single one of them.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Mariners, I just want to thank you for this data. For the newer members of the board, I just want to flag this was an issue that the board originally discussed, I want to say 8 months ago or so, in terms of getting more data and transparency regarding provisional voting data specifically. And I just want to thank you and your staff for putting it together. And it's, again, we talk consistently about the need for transparency, and just want to thank you all for delivering in this regard.
Oh, thanks. I'm just going to probably do the other portions of this as well, just to kind of instead of kicking over to other people here, just to keep it going. But they're on the line here just to answer any specific questions. But the Candidacy and Campaign Finance Division, they helped with the candidate filing for the special election, which was July 5th, and because it's a special election and it's a state election, there is now a special pre-primary report that's due in 3 days. So that will be because of the time nature, they don't have 2 pre-primary reports, just the one, and then they will be able to follow the regular cycle for the other reports due for the pre-general 1 and 2 as that goes forward with it. As you can see, 77% filed timely for the pre-primary 2 report, and 90% of the committees have filed the required report, which is standard at this point here, just overall. And the 10% that have not filed are still being assessed late fees with a maximum penalty of $1,000. If, the next one that is due for the presidential Baltimore City cycle is due August 27th. So that's upcoming. Public financing, that's is moving along. I'd say the biggest one there was that the candidate that had withdrawn his candidacy had returned over $200,000 back to the fund. As for the state campaign finance fund, we're almost at $9.5 million in the campaign finance fund. So that's be able to fully fund at least 2 in the primary and 1 in the general for the in 2026. So that's great news there. And as you can see, there was some enforcement actions. One of the bigger, the next one here is election management. And there was a couple of polling place changes because of issues with the scenario there. We had, I believe the letters were in the folders there, but this was a delegated duty that we then we reviewed it and made sure that the 3 counties met all the requirements for the polling places that were necessary and were approved for this. The local boards, we're just, in the process of, basically the biggest thing right now is getting ready for the general elections, election judge training, LBE technicians, greeters, testers, and, they're surveying to identify voting system training needs to be delivered by our vendor right now. Inventory, just as other things go on there, we're at 97%, which exceeds DGS's minimum, and we're on track to meet the September 15th deadline there. Now for information systems, technology, and cybersecurity here, this is, and it's going to blend in a little bit with the procurement portion of things here. As you are aware, we successfully implemented our contingency plan for the EB 5000 poll books for the 2024 presidential election, and we'll continue to use these poll books for the presidential general. That poll book project, by the way, which was the new poll book project, was closed because of that was the Demtech one, and now we've created a new poll book one, which we're naming statewide poll book modernization project, so that we don't get the names confused, because the old one was called the new poll book project. So this one is going to be known as SPM project, and that is now submitted for do-it approval. We had an RFI released, and we're waiting, and responses have been received and under review here. So that is moving along. I just want to again say that major IT projects usually take about a minimum of 2 years to implement here. We are behind due to what happened, and that's why we're using the contingency plan here for 2024. But as we are going through this here, we know that there's usually some delays or anything like that possibly with the state poll book modernization project. So we have made sure that we have the contingency plan in place even further. So we've, made sure that we have viable poll book products and solutions for any special elections in 25, as Ms. Butler mentioned, there could be a possibility of that, and for the 2026 election cycle as well. And that was approved by BPW. So we have, as we're still plugging away to modernize and get new poll books, we do have contingency plans already in place to make sure that, if there's any sort of hiccups along the line here, that it will be not impacting Maryland voters. We have the new voting systems project is fully staffed. We have an RFI that's been released. As I think we speak, we have them, those RFIs, we had about 6 vendors submit for the RFI. So we got those today, and they'll be reviewed. So that's where we're at with that one there. As I mentioned before, a lot of that right now is, I would say, kind of a holding pattern due to the fact that the EAC has new standards for its voting system, a 2.0, and the vendors are now either showing a path towards 2.0 or seeking 2.0 certification right now. So that's probably where we're looking at to see what's the best options for Maryland and making sure that we have the most, I would say, modern equipment out there. And we have the new campaign finance reporting system is underway. We've had multiple questions, and the proposals for the RFP are due August 2nd. And with the current contract expiring on March 31st of 2025. So that's kind of where those major IT procurements are, and projects as well. Overall here, we have some cybersecurity information that we are updated on, and we are scheduled for a tabletop exercise in August in preparation for the general election in November. We've had a couple of procurements here, which are just, other ones as well. I'm happy to answer any questions here about that with modifications, especially with, we had to do some modifications for the 2024 special election in Prince George's County, especially with the voter education contract, ballot printing, and auditing as well. So, all our contracts don't necessarily have that, but they have to be modified for that as well. And so that's kind of the procurement portion of things. Mail-in voting, we're still on track to mail out a Eurocava voters ballots on September 21st, and the state deadline for domestic ballots is September 23rd. And we are making preparations for curing by text. I think that has been a valuable tool there. And we're going to send out now voters on the permanent mail-in ballot list communications, just to make sure that they confirm their desire to be a permanent mail-in voter. So it's more or less just, if you are a permanent mail-in voter at this address, if anything has changed, please let us know. So it's not, they don't have to do an affirmative action to confirm their desire. They just have to tell us if they don't want to continue anymore. And now we have voter registration in operation.
Mr. Demarais,
Yes.
One question on that. I just can't remember. Can voters still decide to add themselves to the permanent mail-in ballot list?
Yes. Yes, they can always, you can add, but then you just won't get the notice. This is already people that are already on it. And we just want to, because that would be an affirmative action by the voter saying, I want to be on for this election cycle and future. These were people that had already said that, and we just want to make sure that when they might have moved, they might not want to be on it anymore. They might have changed their minds. And this is a part of the law there. So this is just kind of a communication, just making sure that they're aware that, this is how they've wanted to vote. And if they want to change, they have to let us know.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Voter registration, we continue doing our internal audits. And like I mentioned, this is a part of the new internal audit division. And we have a comprehensive audit review too of the presidential primary. This is different from the comprehensive audit of the election directors, but basically this is evaluating the 18 areas of the election, from the voting system, polling place operations to canvassing, and post-ballot reconciliation. And it will continue for several more weeks with a mid-August date for completion here. Clear Ballot, the automated tabulation audit, which was performed by our vendor Clear Ballot, is complete and confirmed the accuracy of our tabulating systems. And we will publish through the public portal the summary of the audits, as well as images of the scanned ballots. And I think that also goes a long way on the open portion of it, making sure that these were the ballots, it's still secret. No one's going to see how or anything else, but then you get to see what was scanned and everything. And like I said, we have a contract modification in place for an automated tabulation audit for the special election. Just some stats from the voter registration division there. We're over 4.1 million, almost 4.2 million active voters in the state of Maryland, and we are still updating and our ERIC data and making sure that they're processed as well. And
as depressing as this answer might give me, have any new states dropped out of ERIC since the last time we discussed?
No, but I have been in contact with Eric about it, and I think hopefully we 2 states will be joining, and I think there's going to be some serious conversations about where Eric goes and making sure why those states were dropping out for various reasons, and to see what middle ground we can do, because I think the overall arching thing is important to make sure that we had them in rather than them out, because that's important.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
So right now we're at 50%. Is that correct? 50% of the states are in ERIC and 50 are not.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's going the wrong way.
Right. So how are we mitigating that? Yeah. Okay.
Right. And as I noted earlier, the following delegated duties were exercised, which was polling place, the exercising polling place changes between the primary and the general election. And with that, I submit the state administrator's report.
Jared, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but in the last 3 or 4 days, I've gotten a lot of inquiries. Maryland has a pretty strict rule that after a certain date, a candidate's name cannot come off the ballot. I recall in the last gubernatorial election, I think one of the Democratic candidates passed away during the primary and couldn't have the name removed. So my question is, what is our plan, and what's the procedures to make sure that President Biden's name is not on the ballot, and whoever the nominee is on the ballot? Because I know we had a candidate that was on the ballot after he passed away. So
Yes.
I know we have a rigid rule that after a certain date, you're on the ballot, whether you try and resign or die. So I'm just trying to answer some of the questions.
Yes, this situation, the situation that had occurred was ballots were already kind of printed or underway at that point there, and it was too late then to change candidates or to remove them after a certain date. For presidential election here, the law is, it allows us to wait until after the conventions. The conventions, they have, after 5 days after the conventions, the presiding officers of the National Convention will send us a certificate of nomination telling us who their presidential candidate and vice presidential candidates are to put on the ballot. But and right now we just received the Republican ones, and we'll wait for, and we've already received the Libertarian one as well, and we're waiting for the Democratic one after their primary election. I mean, after the National Convention. The ballots are not being produced right now, so there's plenty of time to wait and make sure that the correct nominees are on the ballot. So this idea of the Maryland voters will not be confused. They will get the correct Democratic and Republican nominees on their ballots.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marinus. Are there any other questions for the administrator's report? Going once, going twice. All right, Mr. Coburn, the Assistant AG report.
Thank you. Yes, things are heating up with the summer. You have my Assistant Attorney General's report. I'm not going to harp on it too much. I'll briefly summarize, and then if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. The first case listed, Sullivan v. Summers, we're still waiting there on the court. We've filed a motion to dismiss, and the opposing party has filed a response. Those are still pending before the district court. Wacomico County branch of the NAACP versus Wacomico County. Almost 2 weeks ago, the plaintiffs in that case filed a motion for a preliminary injunction. It asks the court to essentially decide the case, and it would affect a potential ballot question that is going to be posed to Wacomico County voters. And so OAG is currently formulating a response on behalf of SBE now. Number 3, Gibson versus Frederick County. Nothing has happened since the last report. We are still waiting for the Fourth Circuit to decide that case. Number 4, Maryland Election Integrity versus the State Board. Since the last meeting, the appellants, Maryland Election Integrity in that matter, filed their brief on July 9th. They then filed a motion to expedite the case to make it move faster so it could be decided faster. OAG opposed that motion to expedite. It's Friday, I filed it Friday. And I am currently drafting the SBE response appellee's brief for that appeal. And then number 5 is a new suit that SBE was named in, Mayor and City Council of Baltimore versus Baltimore County Board of Elections. It's a petition lawsuit. There was a question about a charter amendment for Baltimore City petitioned onto the ballot successfully. The city has sued, alleging that the question is one that is not proper for a charter amendment, that the subject of the charter amendment is not one proper for a charter amendment. And so the city is looking for a legal determination of whether that charter amendment can be added to the charter. If it cannot be added to the charter, there will be no question. If it can be added to the charter, there will be a question. The state board was named in the lawsuit as a defendant, but the state board has almost no interest whatsoever in the lawsuit. When I say interest, I mean it's not that the state board is bored by it, but the state board took no action. The state board made no determinations and did nothing to affect this ballot question. The state board's primary interest, and the one that I'll be sort of vocalizing and advocating for in both the circuit court and on any appeal, is that this must be decided before the ballot printing deadline, because whether there is a question or not on the ballot determines whether or not it is printed on the ballot. And the state board needs to know that before the printing deadline. With that, I'll take any questions about pending suits.
So all the things that we were stipulating, is that coming later?
Yes, that's closed session.
All right, any questions? As always, thank you, Mr. Coburn.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Title 13 and Title 14 waivers. Mr. Norfleet.
And everyone, it should go pretty quickly. We have 8 waiver requests for Title 13. Does anyone have any questions about the 8 waivers?
There's no questions. We'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the waivers as decisions were made.
Is there a second?
I'll second. We have to.
Seconded by Mr. Shalik. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Title 14.
Jay, can I just jump in for
Of
people
course.
that may be watching? Could Alan just explain what Title 13 is as opposed to just the title?
Sure. Title 13 is involving candidate committees, PACs. And Title 14 is our corporations, nonprofits. So that's the only distinction.
So these people were fined because of some non-compliance with filing.
Late filing, and they've explained like either technical issues or email. They didn't see their email in time, so they have made their plea to us, and that's why we submitted to you to see if you approve.
And staff already vetted all these requests.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, I review it, and then Jared takes a look at it too.
Thanks.
Yep, sure.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Shalik. Any other questions? Okay, Title 14, and Mr. Norfleet, correct me if I'm wrong, but since these are all denials, it does not require a board vote.
Correct. So there are 16 denials and, I guess it's for your review, but there's no vote required.
And can you
So,
explain what Title 14 is?
Yeah, Title 14 are for, as Jared explained the history not long ago, we're one of the few states that has kind of pay to play legislation, and corporations and nonprofits, formerly nonprofits, but if a company hires a lobbyist, they have to file with us and disclose their political contributions. And if they have contracts with the state more than 200,000, also, that's a reason to file with my office. So it keeps us busy, and we've had some recent changes in legislation affecting nonprofits with lobbyists no longer have to file with us. So we've been very busy with Title 14 recently.
But Alan, what's the remedies that they're trying to get waivers for? Fines? Are they being fined?
It's fines.
Okay.
For a late filing after a certain period, the max fine is $1,000 per report. So that's what they're seeking relief for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on item 7? Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you, Mr. Norfleet.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to item 8, voting center plans for the Prince George's County special elections. Ms. Berry, I don't know if that's you.
I'm actually going to let Melissa present
Even
this
better.
today.
Sure. You guys have before you just a very brief presentation of the voting centers that are being proposed for the Prince George's County Special. There are 9 centers total. There's 1 in each district. There's a map in there that has all of the voting centers on them, as well as the addresses of each location. Just some background, there was a little bit of a struggle. The LBE really had to work hard to get those 9 spots that they found, just because of the amount of summer activities that go on in some of the already existing early voting centers. So you'll notice that I think maybe only 1 of them is an existing early voting center, and that's because most of them weren't available. And so they worked really hard with the county to find 9 locations that were available. They'll be open for early voting, and then there'll also be the election day voting centers. And we have Wendy, if you have any questions or want any details on the search, but we have offered them up with the recommendation to approve.
Appreciate that explanation, Ms. Dorsey. My one question, it looks like I just want to confirm that it's 1 site per each councilmanic district.
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions on this?
And Jake, this comes from the recommendation of the local board. They vetted this and it's their recommendation.
Yep, they provide them to us, and then we provide them to Jared, and so it comes with 2 recommendations. It comes with the recommendation of the local board, and then the recommendation of the state administrator.
Yes, and I've reviewed them, and everything was fine with this as well.
Good, thanks.
And I think the question was, there was that big hole, but they do have to find locations, and this was a short time to find locations. So I think for the regular, the hole won't look that way in the map on the regular election.
Yeah, and just for the record, they did not get their first choices, and so
Yeah.
they even went through like GIS trying to find the most centrally located, and they literally did the best that they could kind of get that was available.
Right.
And I just also want to make sure that it's a countywide election, and it's so any of those 9 throughout the county will be able to service all the voters in the county. So, Upper Marlboro you don't have to go to the one in your district in order to vote. It's so it's very much more like early voting, even on election day. For this, that's why they're vote centers, so that they'll be able to handle all across the board there. So. Then after this, I have to jump back to the conference. So I just wanted to say that. So
Are there any other questions on this item? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the voting center plan.
I move that we approve the voting center plan for PG County.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Passes 4-0. Next, we're going to move on to item. Thank you, Mr.
I
Demers.
just want to say thank you, and I want to get a couple more updates, and I'll brief everyone about the NASHED conference here. So thanks, and I leave it over to my staff that is probably much more equipped at answering any more questions. So
Have a good conference.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, we're going to move on to local bylaws. Is this you, Ms. Berry?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. Good afternoon to the board. So before you today are the final 6 group of local board bylaws that you have reviewed. Some of these local boards, and just for the record, it's, bear with me here, Hartford County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, Talbot County, Somerset County, and Cecil County. So some of the bylaws have a few minor changes outside of the template bylaws that we provide. However, none of them are breaking any laws, and it is in the full authority of the local board to make small changes to their bylaws. So before you is the recommendation of approving the 6 counties and their revised bylaws.
Any questions from Ms. Berry? And Ms. Berry, do you have handy what the 6 counties are?
Oh, yes. It's Hartford, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, Cecil County, Somerset County, and Talbot County.
But what was the?
I got Hartford, Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Cecil, and Talbot. Which one did I miss?
Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Right. Is there a motion to approve the local bylaws of Hartford County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Cecil County, Talbot County, and Montgomery County?
Yes, I move exactly what you said. To approve the 6 county amended bylaws for Hartford County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, Cecil County, and Talbot County.
Is there a second?
And I'll second.
Ms. Jackson Stanley, you going to read over all 6 of them as well?
No, sir, I've read them already, and I didn't realize that these were the last 6, so I'm glad that you all got the heavy lifting done before I got here.
And you
All right.
carefully checked out the changes in them because some of them were not exactly the same as the template.
As well as I could discern what was different, I did. Thank you.
All right, it's been motioned and properly seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 10, the approval of the SBE policy 2024-01 specimen ballot template policy.
Yes, thank you. So before you is a proposed state board policy that would require that the local boards of elections use the sample ballot or specimen ballot or voter guide template. It goes by various names that is provided. There is also an instance in this that the local board can also request, specific approval of their sample ballot. But in order to avoid any confusion and different verbiage, as I just said, that is being used, having a uniform template that all local boards have to use, it's familiar to the voters, is the policy that is before you today.
And I just want to say on this and then open up to any questions. I think this is really important. I think us having minimum standards and having the local boards have to adhere to them while still giving the ability for flexibility if needed is important. I know there were some instances this past election where voters got confused because of the specimen ballots and confused them with the actual ballots. And I understand that there was a difference in terms of whether or not the local boards used our template and whether or not voters had that same level of confusion. And so having this kind of uniformity and level standards is really important, and I appreciate this policy. Are there any questions for Ms. Berry? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the State Board of Elections policy for the specimen ballot template.
Right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved by Ms. Butler, seconded by Mr. Shalleck. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposition? All right, motion passes. Thank you. We're going to move on to regulations, and I know there was some. I don't know if the agenda is the most accurate agenda, but
If I may, we are just going to pull these. There was a minor technical issue that we need to pull these until the August board meeting for the final vote. So we can skip ahead to item 12.
perfect. And our chair has just arrived, so I'm going to turn things over to our chair. Mr. Chair, we're on item number 12, the election of officers.
Jake did a great job.
I'm sure he did. I am sure he did.
And
I
you have
wanna
great
say-
timing, just all of the heavy work has been done.
Yes, no doubt. The heavy lift is
Mhm.
always on his shoulders. I do appreciate you guys for moving forward. I appreciate you providing me the accommodation with regards to my loss, and appreciate that for moving forward. We are, as I understand it, at bullet 12. The chair would, at this time, would entertain a motion. Yes, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to nominate Michael Summers to serve as chair of the State Board of Elections for another year. I think we've all really appreciated your very calm demeanor and eagerness to make sure everybody's voice is being heard both in open session and closed session. And so I'd like to nominate Mr. Summers to serve as our chair.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
It has been properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Sorry, it looks to be unanimous. Did I catch everyone's vote? I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Thank you. So moved. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for your commitment and to allow me to serve you and the residents and citizens of Maryland in this capacity. I am in my local library back home, so please forgive me if I am whispering. I'm sharing space with a wonderful colleague here who's doing her studies. So thank you guys very much. That being said, we are moving on to item number 13 on the agenda, election of our vice chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am, Victor.
actually, it's 12B.
12B,
And I'd
thank
like
you.
to put into nomination name of James Jim Shalleck for the position of vice chair for this board.
Thank you so very much for that. Is there a second?
Second, Mr.
It has
Chair.
been properly seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimous. And thank you very much, Jim. Welcome. If you'd like to say something at this time for
No,
about your colleagues.
I certainly want to thank the board. It's truly an honor to be with all of you, and I'm not going to let you down. I really appreciate this honor. And Mr. Chair, you've been terrific to me as a newcomer, and I'm so happy you're going to be our leader. I have 100% confidence in you, and looking forward to working with you as a team.
Thank you so very, very much. I greatly appreciate that. And we appreciate your service. Yes, did someone, I thought I heard someone.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, when we're done with this issue, I need to go back because I think we might have missed something back when I was chairing that I want to make sure we get 100% right. So if we can.
Please, by all means.
Item number 9, Ms. Berry,
Mhm.
can you share with us one more time the names of the counties that we were voting on their bylaws?
Hold on one second.
Slowly.
Yeah, I think on the motion, we missed Somerset County, so just bear with me here. Let me grab
I
it.
had Hartford, Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Cecil, Talbot, and Montgomery.
Anne Arundel,
Cecil,
Cecil,
Cecil.
Somerset.
Somerset.
Yeah,
I thought-
Somerset was missed.
Okay, so
got-
7 counties?
Hey, can you do that again? I'm sorry. I'm missing one.
So sorry. Hartford, Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Montgomery, Cecil, Somerset, and Talbot.
Would you like me to redo my motion? Yes.
I guess
Okay.
to set the record. Thank you, Diane.
All right, so I would like to approve the county amended bylaws for Hartford County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, Cecil County, Talbot County, and Somerset County. Do I have a
Thank you
second?
very much for that motion. Is there a second?
For the point of clarification, I'll second again.
Thank you so very much. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that point of clarification. You guys working together on that. Thank you, Jake, for that insight and correcting that oversight. I am attempting to pull up the agenda.
Item
I-
14 is the SBE bylaws, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, every July, we vote on our bylaws. And if there are any recommendations or amendments, we will, this is the time for that. And I predict each of you were given these bylaws from the following our last meeting. These bylaws have been updated, were updated last year and recently approved and signed off on. But I saw Diane with her hand up. Do you have a question regarding the bylaws?
Yeah, I have a couple things I'd like to add. In section 5.5, it says personnel management. Part A, it says as required under 2.202B2 of the election law article, the board shall hire, and it should say and supervise the administrator. Because we don't have and supervisor, and all it says is that we're hiring, but we are in a supervisory position. So I'd like to talk about putting and supervise into that particular section.
Diane, could you quote the section again, please? I have it, but you were talking so fast, I think I missed something.
2-2, it's on page 7 of 9 of the bylaws.
7 of 9, thank you.
Section 5.5, personnel management.
Personnel management.
And just add the word and supervisor after hire. And then the other thing that I would like to do is
Hold on a
add
second. Mine said, are you saying 5.5B?
A,
A,
yes, as
to
required.
hire and supervise.
Right, hire and supervise.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I'd like to also propose a change to the bylaws to circulate a draft prior to the next meeting. I would like to add that each respective party nominates who they would like to lead their team for president or vice president of the board in bipartisan respect, no matter who the governor is, so that each party picks their leadership instead of the opposition party, choosing the leadership. So I guess, Dan, you'll have to look at the verbiage for that. I discussed it with Jared earlier because that didn't happen this time.
So, Diane, just to clarify, you're looking at section 2.2 to add language there, although there's a supermajority vote?
Yeah, Dan will have to look at that. Because in the past at our boards, the Democrat people picked who they wanted to lead, whether depending on who was the governor. So they would pick the vice president or the president. And then the opposite party picked the opposite team, because you have to have one of each for the president and the vice president.
So you're suggesting a slate of officers
No.
be presented?
No, I'm just suggesting that we change how we do this so that if Jim and I had chosen me to run for this, and then you all made a decision beyond that, not to do that, we'd like to have each party put their person up that they want to lead the board. So we'll have to look at how to write that.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Coburn, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we propose changes to the bylaws at this meeting and then we vote on them next meeting. Is that
Next meeting.
correct?
Right, and Jared says you propose the change, direct the staff to circulate a draft prior to the next meeting, and then the change can be voted upon at the next meeting. And Dan will have to make a
Correct.
legal determination on whether that provision can supersede supermajority statutory provision.
Gotcha.
Great. Thank you
Okay.
very much. We
So we'd
look
like
forward
to-
to receiving those recommendations to amend the bylaws. Are there any, Dan, were there more? Were there those 2 points?
That's all I saw in there.
Okay.
At some point, I'd like to talk about this stipend, but I think, do we do that in private message, Dan?
Well, when we're dealing with compensation, we can discuss that in closed session. But it is in our current bylaws and state reg that there is allowance for stipends, but that is open for discussion, not during open session.
So we'll do
Okay.
it in closed session.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And if it's part of the discussion for closed session, it has to be on that, you have to close the meeting with that subject attached.
Right. And so we will most likely have to have that discussion during the next month. Once it is put on the agenda as part of the closed session.
Can I ask one more quick question,
Purpose.
also, Michael? In our meeting agendas, we don't ever have anything about correspondence. In our county boards, there was always, correspondence that came in, and usually it would be discussed at, any correspondence that came to the board. Dan, is that something that we can do at the state level or not? Because I think some of the correspondence that comes in, and sometimes the board isn't even hearing about it until it becomes, a much bigger issue.
Well, I'll take that, Dan. I appreciate your question, Diane. The State Board of Elections receives a tremendous amount of correspondence, and
Yeah.
we do receive correspondence in relation to those requesting to address the board if in proper order and due process. Outside of that, with regards to communications to the board that pertains to the state board, any regulations, correspondence is shared as well. I don't know the volume of which you are requesting to be exposed to the board. I would, consider, that as part of new business for open discussion during our next scheduled meeting. We could put that on the agenda for new business. I like that you're citing that and sharing that with us. I'd like to hear more about it, and if it's going to be circumscribed. With regards to open sessions, some communications may not be privy for open session that
Right.
the board receives. So we will have Dan prepare for what articles, what documents, what types of communication would be sensible to bring forward, not only to the board, but that could be shared in open session. We do not want to put the state of Maryland at risk for
Right. That's what I
exposing and
wondered.
sharing any communication that comes into the board without prior consent of those sharing that communication. So we will deal with that. And like I said, it's a great agenda item to be added for new business next time.
And FYI, there is no 5.3, just so you all know. There was a 5.2
Okay.
and 5.4, but they missed 5.3. So I don't know if you need to fix that or not.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I like to move that we also make that change at the next meeting. Great catch.
Thank you very much. There seems to be some amendments needed to the language as well. So I will hold this for discussion. I will also hold it for anyone who would have recommendations, amendments to propose to the bylaws, that they be submitted prior to next month's meeting so that we all can review them for our knowledge and understanding, in order for a robust discussion to be had, especially with regards to any typos, which is what we've had to go through before, any typos and grammar changes need to be scrubbed and addressed prior to vote. All right. Thank you. Anything further, Diane?
I don't think I saw anything else in there. Thank you, though.
Okay. Are there any other questions, concerns, updates, recommendations regarding bylaws?
No, but I did have one question on a related matter. Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I wanted to raise something of a confidential nature at the closed meeting. Do we have to add that in public session for the next closed meeting, or what's the requirement?
If that is the case, I would recommend you speaking with the state administrator with regard to that so that they can prepare the closed session memoranda that is read prior to the closed session. So if it is in regards to a topic that's already on the agenda, I think we're free and clear to discuss what you need to in closed session. But if it is not cited on our closed session memoranda to be read to the public, we will have to hold that until next meeting.
Will do.
And I appreciate that. And all of those communications can be shared directly with Katie Berry and or our state administrator.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for that. The next, I believe, on the agenda is our delegation of duties. Please correct me if I'm wrong, someone.
You're correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With regards to our delegation of duties, these have been recently scrubbed. They were proposed to us prior. These are the ones that are standing and voted on at this time. Did anyone have any comments, updates, questions regarding our most recent current delegation of duties?
I had just a few questions about it.
Yes, ma'am.
On 3204, it says designate public agencies and non-governmental agencies as voter registration agencies where qualified individuals may apply to register to vote.
Right.
Who trains these agencies? Because we're now sending them out to, and I think it's,
Right.
you know, when my husband went to the DMV and they forced him to re-register to vote. I don't think that should be happening. I don't know why the training is not good. So at some point, who trains those, or do we just leave this in the duties and we just discuss that at a different time?
Katie, do you want me to? Okay. So that actually does not apply to the MBA. That is so by law, we are required to have certain automatic voter registration agencies. One of them is MBA. To your point, the MBA is the trainer of the people there, but the law also has certain requirements. Motor voter law requires certain things happen when someone goes and has various transactions. So I actually have been doing some research into this area and would be happy to share with you kind of what those screens look like. We've gotten some information from the MBA, so happy to share that information, but most of it is an automated process that comes up on the screens when they do their transactions. And then there's also an equivalent, a lot of the transactions you can do from home now. So that's all very regulated by Motor Voter. But again, happy to share any information that I can with you.
Yeah, because my husband wanted to know how could he just opt out and not have to do that, and he wasn't allowed to. So I think, you know, some of these things were forcing people to do things that are, you know, maybe not what they were there for. He was just kind of surprised. And one more quick question: we're doing this stuff in the jails and the juvenile centers. Are the juvenile centers 18 and above? Are they able to vote? I just was kind of surprised to see that on there, but I'm not sure that they were old enough to vote at the juvenile centers.
Yes, there are some folks at the juvenile facilities that went in when they were juveniles. And then also working on registering those who will be 18 by the time that the general comes. It's a very, very small population, extremely small population.
That's what I was wondering. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because they just kind of popped up with some of the new things.
Yeah, it's very small.
Okay. All right, I think that's pretty much the questions I had. And some of the sloppy things that we're doing, that because they're in here, we can keep looking at them, like chain of custody, the ballots. Okay. All right, great, thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of proposed changes on this document, and I'll make sure to reach out to all of my colleagues on the board between now and the next meeting to discuss them individually, but just wanted to go through them quickly now, if I may, Mr. Chair, and I'll make sure to submit them in writing as well.
Thank you.
For election law 2-303F, approve emergency precinct or polling place changes, I believe there should be a period of time where those changes should have to come before the board. And so I would propose within 60 days of the election, the administrator can make the changes on his own, on their own before then it should come before the board. Election law 2-303.1C, approve or reject LBE's polling place plans. This administration has been pretty good about bringing them before us. I'd like to make sure that that's not a delegated duty, that is a duty of the board. The one that Ms. Butler just brought up, election law 3-204A, designate public agencies and non-governmental agencies as voter registration agencies where qualified individuals may apply to register to vote. I'd like to keep that as a delegated, but after talking to Mr. Demarinis and Ms. Berry, I think the board receiving a special notice after agency is designated as such would be a good practice moving forward. Election law 10-301-1 B10, approve additional early voting center after local board and governing body of county agree to establish additional center. That is currently the practice, and so I think we should remove that from the delegation of duties document. Election law 10-301.1C, designate each early voting center. Again, the current practice is for the board to designate them and it not be delegated. So I would propose that we not delegate those. Election law 13-249G4, which is issue a report on coordinated expenditure finding and impose civil penalty, as well as election law 13-604.3B, which is after investigating potential violations and hearing, issue public report of finding and decide whether to impose a civil penalty or refer the matter to state prosecutor. I think the reports and the investigations should stay delegated, but the imposition of the fines should be the decision of the board, should be a board vote. And then finally, election law 15-113 B2, impose civil penalties for certain violations is delegated. Again, that should be a board vote. So I'll send these around and make sure to share this with the administrator and deputy administrator and staff, but I just want to bring them up here today.
Thank you, Jake. Can you send those soon too? Because they're really good suggestions.
Yeah, I'll send them around to everybody.
Quick. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jake. All right. Thank you all very, very much for that robust discussion and those recommendations. Moving us toward a more perfect assembly, despite the perceptions of others. All right. Thank you all so very, very much for your due diligence. And moving on, if there is no further discussion on this section 2, any recommendations for anything for are we old business? I mean, new business on the agenda? No new business? All right. No old business. Thank you all very much. Are there any, before we go into closed session, are there any disclosures at this time? Hearing none, seeing none. I don't believe we need to come back to open session after closed session. Am I correct with that? Hello?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you so very much. All right, prior to adjourning the open session, I will read the closed session record. We are,
The next meeting.
well, the next meeting was on the calendars proposed. That was an email. The next meeting is for, thank you, Diane.
August 22nd? Is that correct? Or is it August 20th? I have two.
I have August 22nd.
Okay.
At 2:30. Is the 2:30, 3 o'clock time frame still good
Works
for
for me.
everyone?
Yes.
Works for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right, August 22nd. And I definitely appreciate Katie or the staff for sending out the proposed calendar for upcoming meetings. We will review that and I will be reaching out. If any of you have an issue with any of those dates, those proposed dates, please let us know to ensure that we are in advance of that issue going forward.
That'll be a virtual meeting, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Virtual.
For August 22nd? Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yes, because I will be
Miss-
out.
Mr. Chair, I will be unavailable on the 22nd. I'm driving my grandson to college that day. And it's 4 hours one way, so I don't want to think I will be back for 2:30.
Understood.
I'll send a note for absence.
Okay.
I will be in Florida, but I will be able to attend.
Okay. So it appears that we will have a quorum, but if not, are we open to August, either August 21st, no, 20th, or that Friday? I know you're in Florida, Diane. I don't know.
20th,
that
I'm on
will-
the plane. The
You're on
20th.
the
I'm
plane on the 20th? Oftentimes,
The 23rd, I'm hoping to be with my kids in Sesame Place, so I can call you
Okay.
from whatever Grover water slide we're on. if you need, but-
so to be quite honest, so it looks like August the 15th is the third Thursday of the month, but is there a problem with August 15th? I know we were pushing it out to the 22nd, but if we could do it sooner than later, it will free you guys up for your travels.
Works
This
for me.
is-
Works for me.
I'm fine on the 15th.
I am
one-
too.
The one thing I want to flag, and I can make it, but I don't know for Mr. Demarinis and Ms. Berry, is it's the same week as Mako.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't impact our operations. I'll double check with Mr. Demarinis if he's going to the Mako conference, but typically it doesn't impact.
I have a virtual conference, but I don't have to be there the entire time, so I can jump in and jump off if that's okay.
I can step out of Mako.
That's totally fine.
Okay,
So we're looking at August 15th.
August 15th, okay.
okay.
Now that means we also have quite a bit of work to do prior to in the lead up with regards to the bylaws and the delegation of duties in order to have those ready for discussion and movement. Okay. Which is great. But that does put that on. Are you good with that, Katie and staff in preparation?
So we're good on the
that-
15th is definite, or
And Mr. Chair, at 2 p.m. or 2:30?
2:30 on the 15th.
Any chance we could do 2 PM that day, Mr. Chair?
Does any of the other members have a problem with 2 PM?
Let me check here.
Okay. Thank you,
I'm-
Jake.
I'm-
I
I'm
don't
good.
have a
Appreciate it.
problem.
Thank you.
I'll make it work. Thank you.
I'm good.
Awesome.
I can get back, I can get back for them. Yep.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Diane.
Mm.
All right.
Get it.
Thank you, Katie. 2 PM, August 15th. And with that, I would like to move the board into closed session, and then we will take a vote to end our open session. So the vote for the to close the meeting on 7/23/2024. This is a virtual motion to close meeting made by the chair. And I will, after reading this, ask for a second. Statutory authority to close session. The meeting will be closed under general provision, Article Section 3-305 B1, which is to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and other personnel matters that affects one or more specific individuals, as well as 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. All right.
A
So
second.
section, okay, thank you very much, Diane. With the second, all those in favor of moving to a closed session, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, the chair also now, thank you, it is unanimous vote, consent of the board. The chair is now open to a motion to close our open session.
So moved.
It has been moved. It has been properly seconded by Member Butler, moved by Member Weissman. All those in favor of closing our July 23rd session, open session, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. And folks, we will return to our closed session. It is 4:03. I know you guys have been doing your due diligence. Thank you so very much. I need a little time. Can I say 4:15 back here? Okay, thank you also very, very much for your movement
Thank
and
you.
consideration.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Katie, you'll put up a new link for that.
Yes, I'll resend it in an email right now to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
Better than
you.
hunting. It's better than hunting. Thank you.